Today it's our honor, pleasure, and it's such a blessing to introduce to you to our guest speaker tonight, distinguished spiritual leader, educator, voice of youth, and actually I call him, in Gita, Krishna Bhagavan was called Sakha, so I call him actually a friend, and I see him more as a friend. He's a guru, guide, mentor to a lot of people, but I see him more as a friend, that you can reach out to him anytime you want, and for anyone. So, Gaurang Das Ji from ISKCON. So, Gaurang Ji does not need any introduction, but I'll try to do whatever I can. So, he's a monk, he's a visionary, social communicator, whose influence reaches millions of people worldwide. His presence on social media, especially on Instagram, where he inspires more than 2+ million followers, has become a very powerful source of reflection and wisdom. He's an IIT graduate, very highly educated, but more importantly, through his platforms, Gaurang Das Ji is bridging ancient wisdom and modern life. He speaks with warmth and clarity on digital balance, purpose, and inner well-being, reminding us, as he once said with a smile, that you all deal with Google, I deal with God. That single line went viral, inspiring millions to find a balance between technology and spirituality. As director of Govardhan Eco Village, governing body commissioner of ISKCON globally, and author of acclaimed work such as The Art of Focus and The Art of Habit, Gaurang Ji continues to redefine spiritual leadership in the modern age. Please join me in giving a warm and respectful welcome to Gaurang.
Very good evening to all the assembled guests. Thank you very much to Subraji, Maheshji, Vivekji and Vandanaji for inviting me for this Ekal event. And a special thanks to my sister Sadhana Jain and her husband Dr. Suresh Jain, who have been hosting me in Boston for the last 20 years and have introduced me to this wonderful family of Ekal and the HSS. Today I want to speak the 4 main principles which define Sanatan Dharma. Ekal being a very important initiative with respect to supporting village development, but the foundation is all about how we can understand the Sanatan Dharma at its very core, which ultimately ends with the principle of seva. So the first element which I want to talk about is what is known as samman or respect. Samman or respect comes from the Ishopanishad verse, Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kinchit jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjita ma gridakasya siddhanam. The Supreme Lord is perfect and complete. Everything emanating from Him is perfect and complete. Today, in the last 30 years, from 1990 to 2020, 78 million Indians emigrated out of Bharat to different countries. Today, there are 36 million Indians all over the world. In a country like America, at least 22 out of the Fortune 500 companies are led by Indians, employing almost 2.7 million people with over 1 trillion in revenue. Over the last several years, if you look at the trend of the unicorns, just the last year, out of the 700 plus unicorns in America, at least 70 plus of them have been led by Indians. 60% of the mortals are owned by Indians. The generation of Indians who were born in Bharat in the 1960s and 70s, the generation born in the 1960s and 70s, they had a major contribution in one very important domain. This generation of Indians who are born in the 60s and 70s prioritized artha, prioritized economic development. They went for it. And I'm happy to say They got it. And so India is today about to be the third largest economy in the whole world. But since I am standing here in saffron, there has to be some element which will actually give a commentary on this artha, which is in the pursuit of that artha, maybe we did not prioritize dharma to the extent we should have. And that's the most important principle which we try to recognize here when we speak about Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam, which is Samman or respect for the Supreme. Ultimately, Bharat has been based on the principle of recognizing that there is a superior power. There is an interesting story that in Japan, 1945, August of 6th, a young man, his name is Sumoto Yamaguchi, he was working with Mitsubishi and he is based out of Nagasaki, but he went to Hiroshima for a business trip. And as he was performing his activities near the port, suddenly that was the day where America threw the bomb. Somehow, he was a few kilometers away from the epicenter. He was thrown up in the air, right side of his body was burnt, but he survived. That night he stayed in a bomb shelter, came back home from Hiroshima, back to Nagasaki on the 7th of August. And on the 9th of August, he went to his company headquarters, Mitsubishi, to report what happened at around 11 o'clock. As he was reporting to his colleagues and friends in the office what happened, there was another bomb which came, and that was on Nagasaki that day. And somehow that day also he got injured, but he survived. So the only survivor of both the attacks in Hiroshima and Nagasaki went on to live till the age of 93. And ultimately the Japanese government recognized and awarded him for his resilience. But this goes to show that ultimately Mare Krishna Rakhe Krishna Mare Ke, there is a superior power in control of things. And during COVID, a virus which was less than 1 gram in weight practically paralyzed the entire planet. Many people ask me, you are from IIT Bombay and I am a batchmate of Sundar Pichai. And when I met Sundar Pichai a few years ago, the first thing he looked at me and said, oh, we are from the same batch, but you look younger than me. And I said, that's because you deal with Google, I deal with God. And so many times people ask me that, क्या हुआ भाई IIT करके ये क्या बाबा बन गए, IIT बाबा बन गए? What is the cause? कुछ relationship problem हो गया क्या? So I said, no, one of my colleagues who was very good in academics, was always coming the topper, he tried to commit suicide. And we were shocked. Why did he try to commit suicide? And his response was even more shocking. He said, every exam I get the gold medal, in this exam I got the silver medal. And I could not handle it, I could not tolerate it. And I looked at him and said, that's strange, people are dying to enter into IIT, you're inside IIT trying to die. That doesn't make sense. And in the same exam, 4 or 5 of my other friends failed in 3-4 subjects. And they were moving around the campus peacefully, blissfully, blessing others. Relax, हम होंगे कामयाब एक दिन. So I was extremely shocked and mystified, and I looked at them and said, अरे क्या भाई? What is your philosophy in life? बड़े बेशरम हो आप लोग, इतना फेल होके भी आप आराम से घूम रहे हो, आपकी philosophy क्या है? And they said, हमारी philosophy simple है, कॉलेज में घुसना अपना काम है, निकालना कॉलेज का काम है. That was the day I realized that the education system is only teaching us about achievement and accomplishment, but there is one more factor, which is expectation. And therefore the Gita defines stress as the gap between expectation and reality. And no matter how accomplished you may be, you will never accomplish things in life as per your expectation, because the MBA courses and the Harvard courses and all those management courses only teach you what you should do to get that position, but they do not teach you how to respond and react when someone else gets that position and when you don't get that position. And therefore, dear friends, respect, samman, basically means knowing that there are powers more powerful and stronger than us. 1900s, early 1900s in Delhi, there was an influence of cobra snakes which attacked and entered into Delhi. Their population started growing. So the British officer there made a rule: anyone catches a dead snake and brings, we will give them 25 paise reward. And they thought that people will catch the dead snakes and bring, and then the population will become under control. But they didn't realize they are dealing with Bharat. Thought process is different. So when they made the announcement, you will give you 25 paise for bringing a snake, the farmers around Delhi thought this is a great business opportunity. They started growing cobra farms. And the number of cobras increased. The British officer got bewildered, ye ho kya raha hai? And the local guy said, sir, aapne to mere ko bina puche decision le liya. This is Bharat. You have to involve all the stakeholders in the decision making. You made a unilateral decision, bhugto, ab kya karenge? So he said, now what to do? You have to cancel it. So he declared, we are cancelling this scheme. The farmers became angry, released the cobra snakes in Delhi only. So therefore it is said, when the solution of a problem is worse than the original problem, it is called cobra effect. So therefore, we try to solve a problem, but the understanding should be that the solution should be in harmony by recognizing that there is an overall universal law in place which is in harmony with every ecosystem. And therefore, this is the first principle of Sanatana Dharma, which recognizes the presence of a supreme divine power which controls everything and everyone, and that is called respect or samman. Second principle of Sanatana Dharma is, when you respect, then what is expected from us is, if I am an insignificant part of the entire cosmos, I am expected to be restrained. So the second element after respect is restraint, which in Sanskrit is called sanyam. पहले ईश्वर का सम्मान, फिर स्वयं की आदतों पे संयम. That's a very, very important principle. And therefore, we have to recognize this fact that the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Nirashir yatachittatma tyakta sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvannapnoti kilbisha. That yes, we have desires, and just like the waves of an ocean never end, the desires will never end. But the human form has the ability to control by using one's intelligence. Today the education system is all about vijay, success. But in the Vedic Sanatana Dharma, education began with vinay, humility, which leads to vairagya, renunciation, which then gives proper vivek, which is the right discrimination to choose what to do and what not to do. And therefore, we have to realize that Vishwas or real self-confidence comes only when there is a combination of Vinay, Vairagya, Vivek, and then there is ultimately Vishwas. And all of this put together results in Vijay. So therefore, an entire overall of the education system is required, because when a person is unable to control their own desires, their own abilities, then ultimately you are living in a society where practically no one has control over themselves. And therefore Bhagavad Gita says the three gates to hell are Trividham naragasyedam dvaram nashanam kamam krodham tatha lobham tasmat etatrayam tajit. My dear Arjuna, the three gates to hell is lust, anger and greed. First, control yourself then everything else can be controlled later. I was giving a talk in a jail in Pune. It's called the Yerawada jail. 500 prisoners were sitting in front of me. I love jail programs. You know why? Audience is guaranteed. And I gave the talk, and after the talk I said, any questions? One prisoner raised his hand and said, ek prashna hai mera. So I said, ask the question. The prisoner said, I will come on the stage and ask the question. I got bewildered. I asked the commissioner of police who was standing next to me, कौन है ये? जेल पे, stage पे क्यों आना चाहता है? So the commissioner whispered in my ear, 12 murder किया है उसने. So I got a little worried. I said, मैं 13वां होने वाला हूँ क्या? He said, no, don't worry, let him come. He came on the stage, he asked this question. Afterwards, I asked him, at such a young age, how could you commit so many crimes? And he said, when I'm overwhelmed with anger, there is a complete blackout. I cannot remember and see anything. But now I have been translating books in the Braille language, which is for the visually impaired. And the recent book I'm translating is the Bhagavad Gita. And after studying the Bhagavad Gita, I realized that I need to control myself. And all I ask you is organize satsang for me. We started organizing satsang, and in 4 years, 200 prisoners became students of the Bhagavad Gita, doing meditation for 2 hours every single day. I was giving a talk here in MIT Boston many years ago, 2006. It was my first talk at MIT Boston. I was excited. I am from IIT. I thought, oh, I'm giving a talk at MIT. And I had prepared a presentation, PowerPoint, and they had a LCD projector, and I was standing on the podium, but the projector was somehow not working. So I was asking what happened. So the guy who was working on the projector came up to me on the stage and whispered in my ear, sir, projector is not functioning today. It is failed. You depend on Krishna and give your lecture. I said, मेरा ही philosophy मुझे सुना रहा है. And I could not say anything because the topic of my lecture was overcoming anger. And the first slide was supposed to be, things will not always work the way you expect. How many of you here have experienced that? Things will not always work the way you expect. And therefore, dear friends, all we have is the ability to control our own selves, our own desires. This is the story way back in the 1920s and 30s, where Chicago was ruled by a gangster, a mafia called Al Capone. And in spite of all kinds of crimes by which he was earning more than $100 million in those days, which would amount to billions today, he would always go scot-free because he had a very smart lawyer, advocate. His name was Easy Eddie, and he would somehow, make sure that he escapes the dragnet of the FBI. Well, as it went into the late 30s, Easy Eddie started thinking, what kind of legacy I'm leaving behind for my son? I love my son, I want to give him the best, but is all these millions of dollars what I want to give to my son? Or do I want to give him a fantastic example? If I leave behind all the wealth but ultimately don't leave him an example, the whole society is going to spit at him that what kind of a guy you are. You're son of an advocate who helped a known gangster go scot-free. That is what the legacy of your family? So it was a tough decision, but in the late 30s, he made a decision and he became a whistleblower, went to the FBI and shared some of the financial records of Al Capone, because of which there was a case for the first time against Al Capone. But then as a result, November of 1939, Easy Eddie, when he was driving and he was stopped at a traffic light, he was shot dead. Hundreds of bullets pumped into his chest. Nobody knows who did it, but most likely it is the result of the decision which he took. But the decision he took was so that he leaves behind a legacy of resilience, of integrity for his son. Fast forward 1942, the World War II has begun, Japan has attacked Pearl Harbor, December 7, 1941. And 1942, near Solomon Islands, in a Japanese base, near there was USS Lexington with 2,000 sailors, and almost the worth of that ship was $1 billion in today's terms. 9 Japanese fighter aircrafts came to sink this ship, and practically only 2 airplanes there were there to support and save the ship. They both took off. One of them had all of their guns jammed and could not function. Only one, which was led by Butch, he was actually able to function. He went right behind these 9 aircrafts, started shooting at them gallantly, and down 5 of these aircrafts. The 6th one was badly injured, and the other 3 ran away. Single-handedly in that combat, he saved his battleship from attack, because of which he was immediately given the Medal of Honor, recognized by the US government and the military forces. And in honor of this young man, he, of course, in 1943 died in another combat, but in honor of him, Chicago Airport was renamed in 1949 as O'Hare Airport, because this guy was Butch O'Hare. Butch O'Hare is the son of Easy Eddie, Edward O'Hare. And because the father took such a major decision to place integrity over income, ultimately that sanskar or the legacy rubbed on the son. And that's how this major transformation happened. So therefore, dear friends, please try to understand that as parents, as leaders of society, all of us have a major role to play in sanyam or restraint. The third principle after samman and sanyam, respect and restraint, is sneha or reciprocation. And what is the meaning of reciprocation? Reciprocation means we consider every member in this planet to be part of our family. Ayam bandhu paro veti gananam lahu chetasam udara charitanam tu vasudhaiva kutumbakam. That was the tagline for our G20 given by Prime Minister Modi. The slogan that the entire world is our family. Today, one of the biggest challenges we are facing is that in this entire planet, because of so much of pollution, 4.2 million people are dying because of air pollution. 2.4 billion people are water distressed. 2 billion tons of waste is being dumped. 300 million tons of plastic is being dumped. 8 million tons of that is being dumped only into the oceans. We have at least $1 trillion worth of losses happening in the world because of mental health crisis. 1 in 7 in the world are mentally affected. 9 in 100,000 are committing suicide. 230 million people across the world are experiencing addiction due to social media. Out of that, 70 million are in Bharat alone. 7 hours per day is the average a youth is spending in Bharat on social media. So much of powerful energy is locked up within the youth, but how is it being used? Therefore, dear friends, we have to realize that we should not think that we are the centers, the proprietors, the enjoyers of this creation. We have a responsibility not only towards others in human society, because Sanatana Dharma is all about harmony of the self with the divine, harmony with nature, and harmony with the community. And that is the principle of sneha or reciprocation with others. Goldman Sachs came with a report that between 2015 to 2025, what will be the infrastructure investment required in Bharat? It was almost $1.4 trillion. Out of that, $800 billion would come from family savings. And unless there is family feeling, there will not be family savings. And that is the biggest challenge today we are facing, how to preserve the institution of family. I was giving a talk in a university outside of India, and a young man came up to me, was talking to me in Hindi. I got bewildered. I looked at him and said, hey, you look American or you look Western, but how you're speaking Hindi? He said, when I was 2 years old, When I was 17 years old, I asked my dad, you gave me everything in life except the experience of family, because when I was 2 years old, you were divorced. And since then, I've been hankering for the experience of family. Today, a country like Luxembourg has 88% divorce rate. Spain has 65% divorce rate. France has 55% divorce rate. Russia has 51% divorce rate. America has 46% divorce rate. The global divorce rate is 44%. Bharat still has the lowest divorce rate in the world at only 1%. So far. And so his father said, if you want to experience what is family, go to India. He took a flight, came to Varanasi, saw paying guest accepted. He went to that family and said, I want to experience what's the warmth of a family, what it means for members of the family to sit together, have food together, exchange affection together, celebrate festivals together. Because very soon all of these will become part of dictionary and become extinct if we do not invest in family as an institution. If you just allow me to stay in your family just for 2 years, this foreign boy said, if you allow me to stay in your family just for 2 years to experience what is warmth in a family, I will give you every month a rent of 1 lakh rupees every month for 2 years. That family said, why 2 years? Stay whole life. And they said, if you have other friends also who want to experience family, we will open 1 more room. So Dr. Wolf, he was doing a study in a place in Pennsylvania called Roseto, which had a whole, community from Italy. And he came up with his very amazing conclusion that this small community of Italians who had settled from Italy in Pennsylvania had absolutely no heart disease, no hypertension, no peptic ulcers, no alcoholism, no addictions. Everything was hunky-dory. He first thought maybe is it to do with the DNA, but he checked that people from Roseto, Italy and other parts of America did not have those parameters. So he thought, is it to do with geography? He found the neighboring 2-3 towns had almost, 3 times the incidence of heart disease and everything. So practically every parameter failed. Then ultimately they came to the conclusion, the reason why this Roseto in Pennsylvania was so healthy was because there was social cohesion, there was social community, there was social harmony. The people were always mingling with each other, speaking with each other, supporting each other, and most importantly, those who were successful were not allowed to flaunt their wealth, and those who were failing were cushioned from their failure and protected so that the overall social anxiety was at the minimum. And therefore, for the first time, people realize that when you have a situation where you are socially harmonious, how can social cohesion, social harmony lead to better health? And therefore, dear friends, as we are moving into this century further with greater and greater artha, greater and greater kama, let us not forget that the foundation for that has to be dharma and ultimately moksha. So the Indian community has become quite fixed up in artha and kama. I stand here to remind you to add 2 more dimensions, which is dharma and moksha, which are gradually disappearing from the dictionary. But if those disappear from the dictionary, then all the social anomalies which we see across the world will soon become part of our lexicon, and very soon Bharat will lose its Bharatiyata. And therefore, dear friends, when you have Samman, respect, when you have Sanyam, restraint, when you have Sneha, reciprocation, then you come to the principle of Seva, or what is known as the ultimate way by which you are responsibly serving others. And therefore, a great example of such responsible service is Ekal, where each one of you is coming forward to support the last mile in the villages in Bharat, K to 12. There are 27 crore, 270 million students in Bharat in more than 1.5 million schools. but you'll be shocked to know there is an 88% dropout rate. Only 12% of the students in Bharat go beyond 12th into college. And therefore, the support which all of you are giving, the Ekal Foundation, the leadership which they are taking is extremely important to give that confidence to the children. It is not that talent is not there in rural Bharat. Talent is there. But all of you, when you come together and use your resources and give in charity, in philanthropy, as Bhagavad Gita says, Datavyam iti yad danam diyate anupakarine deshe kale cha patre cha tad danam satvikam smritam. What is satvik dan? Satvik dan or satvik philanthropy means Datavyam iti yad danam. You give in donation, you give in charity, you do philanthropy because you believe in that cause, that yes, we must support this cause, it's a good cause, it's a noble cause, it's a needed cause, it's impactful cause. Diyate anupakarane, second, without expecting anything in return. Deshe kale cha patre cha, by considering time, place and circumstance, knowing that for every penny which I am investing, the return on that is going to be in millions of times compared to the impact it is going to create on society. Tad danam satvikam smritam. Therefore, I am so happy to see that every dollar invested for Ekal is going to be the supreme most satvik dan as defined in the verses of the Bhagavad Gita. I congratulate each one of you for being part of this wonderful initiative. Thanks to the organizers for inviting me here, giving me a platform, allowing me to share a few of my words on Samman, Sneha, Sanyam and Seva. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.
I would like to invite Ramesh Shaji to honor Prabhuji.